Before we start today, just before church, the Lord just really put a song in my heart downstairs, even during Sunday school. And I don't know that it even connects to the message, but I'm going to sing it because the Lord told me to, so I'm going to. It's just a chorus, and I haven't heard it in a very long time. Some of you may know it. You can sing along if you do. Jehovah Jireh, my provider, you are more than enough for me. Jehovah Rapha, you're my healer. By your stripes I am made free. Jehovah Shammah, you are with me. You provide all my needs. You're more than enough. More than enough, more than enough for me. I'm going to sing it one more time. You sing with me if you catch on. Jehovah Jireh, my provider, you are more than enough for me. Jehovah Rapha, you're my healer. By your stripes I am set free. Jehovah Shammah, you are with me. You provide all my needs. You're more than enough. More than enough. More than enough for me. He is, you know. I don't know what you're facing, and I don't know who that's for. But He is more than enough for whatever is in front of you this week. No matter what you face this week, He is enough. No matter how hard things may seem and how impossible, I look over the course of this week in my life, and not just the election. There have been things that looked insurmountable in people's lives this week that I've ministered to. They looked impossible. They looked hopeless. And God moved. He is the God of the impossible. He is the God of situations that we think, what in the world can come of this? God makes good things come of it. And so no matter what you face over the course of this week, God is able, and He's more than enough for whatever you're facing.
Amen.
The message today is from 1 Samuel, and we're going to read a lot. We're going to cover a lot of ground today, and there's just a lot of meat in this passage. We're going to start in chapter 9. We're actually going to do a couple of chapters from 1 Samuel. And this is where, if you remember last week, the people have asked for a king, which really meant they were rejecting God as their king. And God has said, okay, I'll give you what you want. And yet, in that, we talked last week how the king himself was actually the judgment, because he didn't have to punish them in any other way than to give them what they wanted. But in that, God's mercy is always part of His judgment. Even when God sends judgment, He's merciful to His children. Even when they're oppressed, He still has mercy. And so in chapter 9, we start this chapter with, there was a man there was a Benjamite, a man standing, whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zerah, the son of, and we don't know any of these people, so we're going to jump to verse 2. And it goes all the way back to Benjamin. So he's from the tribe of Benjamin. Verse 2, he had a son named Saul. So Saul's dad was Kish, K-I-S-H. Not the quiche you eat, just Kish. An impressive young man without equal among the Israelites, a head taller than any of the others. So he is this impressive guy. And sure, he stood, it says he was, in one version I read and studied this week, it said he was shoulders above everyone else. So everybody else, he was really tall, okay? He was really tall. And people noticed him. He was good looking. Now, I think it's interesting that the description of Saul doesn't mention his character. It mentions his physical appearance. He's handsome. If there were going to be a Mr. Israel, he would win the prize. Okay? He was good looking. Verse 3, now the donkeys belonging to Saul's father Kish were lost. And Kish said to his son Saul, take one of those servants with you and go and look for the donkeys. A normal, everyday morning is in the life of Saul. He's eaten his breakfast, and his dad comes in and says, Saul, the donkeys are gone. Will you go find them? So Colton, he probably hears stuff like this all the time. Colton, the trash is overflowing. Would you go? Colton, the dog is outside. Would you go let the dog in, right? One of those assignments from your parents that you just love to hear, right, kids? You just love it when your parents say, would you blah, blah, blah. Well, Kish says, Saul, will you go find the donkeys? Now, this is not a small thing that the donkeys are missing. Donkeys were very much a sign of wealth. And so it was like his whole mode of transportation was gone. Okay, like all the vehicles had been stolen at the household. The whole driveway was empty and nobody had a vehicle. The donkeys are gone. Now this is very strange, and the message today makes me know that this isn't by chance. This morning I was walking and it was still dark through Freelandville, and I hear this sound, and it kind of startled me. I thought it was a wild animal or something, and so I took a step back because I couldn't see, and I saw something large in the road, and there was, believe it or not, a horse in the middle of the road in Freelandville. Did you see it too, Chris?
I heard it.
You heard it. Okay. There was a horse, and I laughed out loud because I'm preaching about donkeys being lost, and there's no detail beyond the Lord, no detail. And so he put a horse in the middle of the road. When I'm walking this morning, there's this horse in the middle of the road. And so I took a step back, and then the horse galloped off. I don't know where it went or who it belonged to, but there was a horse galloping in the road in Freelandville. It was a black horse, by the way. Good thing I'm not preaching on Revelation. So, verse 4. So Saul is sent after the donkeys. So he passed through the hill country of Ephraim and through the area around Shalisha, but they did not find them. They went on into the district of Shamil, but the donkeys weren't there. And then he passed through the territory of Benjamin, but they did not find them. It says in the commentaries that I read that Saul looked for 3 days and covered 20 miles looking for these silly donkeys. And he can't find them anywhere. And so it appears that he's just meandering through Israel looking for these donkeys. That there's not really any rhyme or reason, that it doesn't really matter what direction he goes. He's just looking for the donkeys. But that's not the case. Let's look at verse 5. When they reached the district of Zuph, Saul said to his servant who was with him, come, let's go back, or my father will stop thinking about the donkeys and start worrying about us. He gives up. The donkeys are gone. I'm tired of looking for them. Let's go home. I'll tell Mom that we can't find the donkeys. Here we are. We're tired of looking. The donkeys are gone. Verse 6. Now, this is very interesting because now this unnamed servant drives the whole action of the story. This servant that we don't even know his name is going to take the story on a path that is sovereign. Isn't that what God does so often? People that aren't even seen as important people God uses to drive the course of the story of his kingdom here on earth. And so this unnamed servant replies, look at this town. Look in this town. There's a man of God. He's highly respected and everything he says comes true. Let's go there now. Perhaps he'll tell us what way to take. Now, there are interesting things about this because he's talking about Samuel, we're going to find out. And remember that everybody in Israel that has any spiritual sense at all knows who Samuel is. Right? He's the prophet. The prophet. And yet he says to Saul, there's a man, there's a prophet, he doesn't name Samuel. And Saul apparently doesn't have really any knowledge of Samuel. Remember that he was only described physically at the beginning of the passage. It didn't say this was a man after God's own heart. It just said he was good looking and he was tall. And he obviously has no spiritual depth to him because he's not even going to recognize Samuel when he sees him. Let's go on. The servant answered him again. Verse 7. Saul said to his servant, if we go, what can we give the man? The food's in our sack is gone. We have no gift to take to the man of God. What do we have? So Saul's not really wanting to go. He's like making excuses. I don't want to go see this guy. Have you ever done that? I don't really want to go to church. I don't really want to go to that worship service. I don't really want to do that. Saul's making excuses. We're out of food. We have nothing to give this guy. We need to just go home, right? Have you ever made excuses? Some of kids, have you ever made excuses? You didn't want to do something? Verse 8, the servant answered him again. And the servant's not going to take no for an answer. Look, he said, I have a quarter of a shekel of silver, and I'll give it to the man of God so that he'll tell us what way to take. Formerly in Israel, if a man went to inquire of God, he would say, come let us go to the seer, because the prophets of today used to be called a seer. And so Saul, with no spiritual sense at this point, no spiritual sense, the servant is going to do whatever it takes to get him to the man of God. He's going to do whatever it takes to get him to the Lord. And so he's going to use the terms that Saul would understand. He's getting rid of religious language and he's saying, let's just go see this guy and hear what he has to say. Do we have to do that sometimes? Should we do that? Do we sometimes use so much spiritual lingo that we push people away? Yeah. And so he says, we need to go. And so finally Saul agrees. Verse 10, good, Saul said to his servant, come, let's go. So they set out for the town where the man of God was. So they go to this town. Verse 11, as they were going up the hill to the town, they met some girls coming out to draw water, and they asked them, is the seer here? Now, these are young girls. The servant, we heard, was young. Saul is young and handsome, and there are two girls at the well. And what happens at wells in the Bible? What happened with Jacob? What happened with Isaac? What did they find at the well? Anybody know? Their wife, right? They went to the well, they found their wife. So, but we don't see these girls. These girls in this passage are only concerned about the Lord. Here's this tall, good-looking guy, and they're not looking for a husband. The Lord is in them, and they are worried about getting him to where the Lord wants him to be. Okay. As they were going up the hill of the town, they met some girls coming out to draw water, and they asked them, is the seer here? Verse 12, he is, they answered. He's ahead of you. Hurry now. He has just come to our town today, for the people have a sacrifice at the high place. As soon as you enter the town, you will find him before he goes up to the high place to eat. And the people will not begin eating until he comes, because he must bless the sacrifice. Afterward, those who are invited will eat. Go up now. You should find him about this time. They went to the town, and as they were entering it, there was Samuel, coming toward them on his way to the high place. Now the day before Saul came, now listen to this. The Lord had already revealed this to Samuel. About this time tomorrow, the Lord said to Samuel, I'll send a man from the land of Benjamin, the exact place where Saul was from. Anoint him leader over my people Israel. He'll deliver my people from the hand of the Philistines. I've looked upon my people, and their cry has reached me. Listen to this. God has said, I'll give you the king that you want. I'll give you what you want. But look at that verse. Look what he says. I will send a man from the land of Benjamin. He will deliver my people from the hand of the Philistines. There's his assignment, Saul's assignment, delivering them physically, militarily from the hand of the Philistines. I've looked upon my people, for their cry has reached me. When we cry out to God, does God move? Yes. Is he sovereign over the affairs of men? Yes. And when we ask, does he have mercy even when what we ask for isn't the best thing? Yeah, even when we ask for things that are less than what God would have, he still has mercy, and he hears our cry, and he sends what we need. Verse 17, when Samuel caught sight of Saul, the Lord said to him, this is the man I spoke to you about. He'll govern my people. And Saul approached Samuel in the gateway and asked, what? Would you please tell me where the seer's house is? I'm the seer. See, he didn't even recognize Samuel. I am the seer, Samuel replied. Go up ahead of me to the high place, for today you are to eat with me, and in the morning I will let you go and tell you all that is in your heart. And as for the donkeys you lost 3 days ago, don't worry about them. They've already been found. And to whom is all the desire of Israel turned, if not to you and your father's family? You're going to be king, Saul. And Saul answered, But I am not a Benjamite from the smallest tribe of Israel, and is not my clan the least of the clans of the tribe of Benjamin? Why do you say such a thing to me? And then Samuel brought Saul and his servant into the hall, seated them at the head of those who were invited, about 30 in number. And Samuel said to the cook, Bring this piece of meat I gave you, the one I told you to lay aside. So the cook took up the leg with what was on it and set it in front of Saul. And Samuel said, Here is what has been kept for you. Eat, because it was set aside for you for this occasion. From this time, I said, I be uninvited guests. And Saul dined with Samuel that day. Now, I want to point out some things. God was calling Samuel to be king. And Tammy, this was from, she's down with Gunner, but she talked about the rule of 3. Do you remember? Last Sunday night at Bible study. Saul was called to be the king. That he was in charge of the military. Samuel was the prophet. And he was in charge of hearing from God and telling the king what he needed to do. And then there were the priests, the prophet, the priest, and the king. All 3 together. The priest then ministered to the people and took care of the sacrifices. So each had a role. And each was to operate only in that role. Saul's job was to lead the kingdom militarily. He was the authority over the government of Israel. But he was to listen to the prophet. He was to listen to Samuel and to do what Samuel told him. And then the priests would operate in ministering to the people. There would come a day, another, who would be prophet and priest and king. Who is that? Jesus. You see, he's not only the king, he's also the prophet, he's also the priest. He's the one over all and through all and in all. And God's saying, okay, I'll give you the king that you want, but that king is still under my authority and still has to listen to what I'm telling him through the prophets and in obedience to the law of God. He still has to operate in that. He can't step out of the place where I've placed him. And so we as a people, if we have that analogy, what do we need to be doing for all of our leaders? We need to be praying. Now, I haven't planned to share this, but Taylor showed me something this week where the president-elect, however you feel about that, has appointed a council of evangelists, right? Is that what they were called? Evangelicals. A council of evangelicals to be his council. And on that, I don't know if you know Jensen Franklin, but I like that guy. He is awesome. If you've not ever seen him on TV, I really like him. Jensen Franklin is on there. Kenneth Copeland is on there. Jim Dobson is on this council. Now, we have yet to see how this all plays out. But I'm encouraged by that.
Amen.
I am encouraged by that. I'm encouraged that he is saying he needs to hear from people who hear from God.
Amen.
And that's what we need. And that's what we need to be praying for from the top down in our government. That we have people in the position of running the government that are listening to the people who hear from God and who also have relationship themselves with God.
Amen.
That's what we need. And I'm praying that God will do just a mighty work in that, and that will be something that we are just blessed by. Okay, verse 25. So they came down from the high place to the town, and Samuel talked with Saul on the roof of his house, and they rose about daybreak, and Samuel called to Saul on the roof, "Get ready, I will send you on your way." And when Saul got ready, he and Samuel went outside together. And as they were going down to the edge of town, Samuel said to Saul, "Tell the servant to go ahead of us." And the servant did, "So you stay here a while so that I may give you a message." And then Samuel takes a flask, chapter 10, and he anoints Saul, a personal anointing, a private anointing. He anoints him as king privately. And he says, "You're called to be the king of Israel." God calls us to things. And he anoints us for things. It's not the public coronation that we're going to see later. It's the private coronation of a king. The calling of a position. And is Saul equipped to do this in any stretch of the imagination? No. He doesn't even really know who prophets and priests are. He's not even in a position to do that. And yet God is going to empower him to do that. He's called him. He will empower him to do that. Now, I have a lot more today, but I'm going to save it for next week. The main thing today that I want us to get from this is, as you look at the course of the events on that ordinary day in Saul's life, those ordinary 3 days, he gets up, he's eaten his cereal for breakfast, and Dad says, "Go find the donkeys." A normal, ordinary day. Ordinary events that would not cause us to think something strange is going on. And he goes to find the donkeys. And do you think every one of his steps were ordered? Look at the timing. He gets to Samuel at just the right time before he goes up to the high place to offer the sacrifice. The timing of that, every step that Saul took was ordered. Every one. When it appeared he was wandering aimlessly. It appeared he didn't even know what he was doing. God was in control.
Amen.
He took him here, he took him there, he took him here, and he led him. And then he spoke through an unnamed servant to drive Saul to where he needed to be, to convince Saul. He used language that Saul could listen to and would respond to. And he ordered the events of Saul's life. We know that God's in the big decisions we make, don't we? You're gonna get a new job and you say, "Okay, Lord, I need to know if this is the right job. Is this where you want me to be? Show me, show me, show me, show me. Is this the house you want us to live in? Is this the guy you want me to marry?" Right? Those big decisions. But do you know that God is in every detail of our lives?
Amen.
The steps of the righteous are ordered. Show those few verses. Proverbs, there's a couple from Proverbs and then one from Psalms. Proverbs, "In his heart a man plans his own course, but the Lord determines his steps." How many of you think you're in control?
Right.
You're not. You may plan your course, but God orders your steps.
Amen.
He interrupts our lives. My life was interrupted in a big way twice this week because God had a different plan than I had. He sent me on a direction I had no idea I was going to go at the beginning of that day. 2 days this week. God controls all the details of your life. And the next one, Susan, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way." He orders your steps. You don't have to worry. You know, all those people you come in contact with, they're for a purpose. There are no chance meetings. I met a student in Dollar General yesterday. The only reason I was at Dollar General was because I did not have enough tomato juice for my chili. And I got halfway home, got all the way to the high school, and I was trying to call everybody at my house. You know how many people had phones at my house? No one would answer. And finally I get an answer when I'm at the high school. Go in the storage room and see how much tomato juice I have. Oh no, only one. So I turn around and I go back to Dollar General, and at just that moment I meet a student that I had years ago who lights up like a Christmas tree and runs and hugs me and says, Mrs. Stevens, I can't believe I'm seeing you. And I invite her to church, and she says, I can't this week, but I will. I haven't been in church in a long time. I've really not thought about it in a long time, but I'll come. Was that by chance? No. Even not answering their telephones, God ordained. Even that. So you're off the hook. God orders our steps. And so when you run into somebody, you know what I heard this week? And this broke my heart. At the Methodist thing Sunday night, and I'm ashamed to even say this. The district superintendent, and I cannot get away from it, it's hung with me all week, said that the average Methodist, pastors included, Methodists, invite someone to church. How often do you think people invite someone to church? And how often do you think? Take a guess in your mind. Guess in your mind. How often do you think people are invited to church?
Every 36 years.
Every 38 years. Every 38 years. Someone invites someone else to church in our denomination. That was from the district superintendent. Pastors included. And because of that, I do that all the time. I'm always asking people to come. You guys should always be inviting people to the Lord. Always, always. I know we're not like that here. I know we're not. But does it give you pause to think that we're not aware of what God is doing in our midst? That we're not conscious that every step we take is ordained of the Lord. And that everybody that we meet is ordained of the Lord. Now we have a choice. We have a choice. You can come to that person at Dollar General and be too busy to talk, even though God has ordained it. You can choose not to walk in what He puts in front of you, but He orders your steps. Saul could have said no. We have a choice. We have free will. But God will put opportunity after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity in front of you if you are willing. Because He orders every step you take, not just the big ones, every step you take, and every person you meet.
Amen.
Every word that is shared, the Lord is in. He is sovereign. He's sovereign over elections, and He's sovereign over events that take you out of what you planned for the day and send you on an unbelievable course.
Glory.
And in His judgment, there's always mercy. You know, even when we ask for the wrong things, even when they asked for a king, He still had mercy and gave them what they needed, someone to fight the Philistines. Let's pray. Father God, I thank You, Lord. I thank You that You are with us. I thank You that You ordain our steps, that You order our steps, that we may think that we have this plan and we're in charge and we're doing what we want, but God, You put in front of us over and over and over opportunities. Help us to be aware of those opportunities. Help us to be aware of the way that You take when the donkeys are out and You use that to put us where You need us to be. We thank You and we praise You, Father. Encourage us. You are more than enough. You are more than enough for me. In Jesus' name, amen. You may stand. We're going to sing.
There are days of days.